sad piano music begins. It's a cold, disturbing day, or something. Hi, my name is... Oh my god. There we go. I had to click like 3 times to unmute my guest. Sorry. Hi, my name is Dylan, and I'm coming to you live from Codename Entertainment's streaming studio for the first time in months, at least the first time in the months that I've been here. Welcome. The weather is beautiful. The sun is shining. It's a nice spring, summery haze. Everybody's out and about, socially distant and responsibly, of course, because we're living in the midst of the most terrifying era of viral apocalypse in recent memory. But seriously, though, stay safe and stay distant. I have a really cool guest today, a guest that we've been talking about hosting on stream for like maybe years, even a while. We probably should have brought him on board anymore. And so if you couldn't tell by either the stream code, the countdown introduction, or the episode title, I have the community's very own guider to everythinger, Gaarawarr. Welcome.
Hello.
How are you today, sir?
It's not the nice day it is there, apparently. It is now literally just started raining as the stream started, so you're going to get the nice soothing sounds of rain in the background today.
You know, I would actually prefer that in the sense that I wouldn't feel like I should be outside. But with the, it's just like, it's so beautiful out. It's like, oh, but like you're kind of reminded that, we're all living, working remotely, staying home, etc. So it's just kind of strange.
I'm fortunate on the nice days I can go out the back door and at least I have a fenced-in backyard I can pretend to be a human in and get scared by the sun because I haven't seen it in so long.
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell, but I'm pale right now, at least for me.
Yeah, no.
And my color balance is a little off too, but whatever.
Mine's probably right. Nice and vampire white.
Yeah. So first things first, how are you? How are things? How's life in the world of a Gaarawarr?
Generally good. We have, for those of people who normally watch my stream, we have a new light, so people can actually see me on stream instead of me sitting in the shadows. That's been the highlight of my week. I mean, work is work, and I've always worked from home, so nothing really changed for me. It's just that the demands people put on you is maybe a little higher. Everyone's a little more on edge, so.
Yeah. I've kind of felt like it feels akin to like a collective, just sort of anxiety, frustration, fear. Like it's just this, intangible thing that is a little brutal. And it's just like it's like having a debuff. Yeah. Anyways, I'm trying to figure out why my volume is so tweaked.
Well, I'm always a little quiet.
Oh, I know what it is.
I don't stick my face right up in the microphone, so.
Yeah. I think that somebody has messed... Well, actually, no, not somebody. Many people have been using this space, and so our gain settings are not quite where I left them. Sadness. Anyways, how's that for volume?
I mean, it sounds good to me, but we'll see what chat says. Apparently, they already found the hidden code.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. Alrighty.
Oh, yeah, the first thing people do is try the episode title every time.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you punch in the free one that's there, and then you try the episode title, and then you go from there.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, you kind of, it's like going through a checklist, right? You're looking for the low-hanging fruit first.
Yeah. And then you got to listen for things that kind of stand out a little bit. Like, was that an odd way to phrase that? Yeah. And then you go from there.
I think I fixed the volume. Also, now that I think about it, Erica was the last person using, and I'm not throwing her under the bus, but she's much more soft-spoken than I am. So she probably had the gain up and a couple other things tweaked, which I've just been messing with. So if the audio is good now, then things are good. Things are great. I feel like less of a streaming failure.
That's me every time I do something right on stream. Basically, hey, today I feel less like a failure.
I mean,
Woo!
I'm pretty confident in exactly how the equipment is set up at my home PC,
Right.
but outside that, yeah, Gaarawarr's Guide to Guessing Everything somebody says.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of when we first chatted about the possibility of you coming on stream was probably a long time ago.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like falls by the wayside because like a huge number of our guests, at least to date, have been kind of like lined up according to whose character was coming in the game, or some event that we were going to be at, or like there's like some greater plan purpose behind who was on which stream, and then we're kind of like we just kind of just get shuffled around and you just forget about it. Or at least, sorry, I forget about it.
I think people started asking about other members of the community after Lauren came on. I think.
Yes,
I think she was one of the first people that was on, and then
one of the first people to join us who actually
hey.
who's played a lot of the game.
Yeah. And they were like, "Hey, when do you have other community members on?" And and that was probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that makes sense because I think of the first guest we ever had was Rudy Rutenberg. Who to date still doesn't have a character in the game, but he was like the first like D&D community member that we talked to, and then with the pandemic, like at one point we talked to Jim Zub, but other than that, like for the most part, it's been pretty much just C&E, and you can just see like how frayed we are, like we're just like, hi, we're here,
like, oh, well, we're doing this again.
Yeah,
all right. What do we talk about this week? Metal music. All right, let's go.
I still catch flack from that from the folks in the office, the folks remotely working across the office. Like, you talked a lot about Metallica. I'm like, did I? Like, it doesn't seem like much to me, but I don't know. I don't claim to know that much. I guess before we get going, I should probably start an adventure of some type.
At some point, yeah. We're looking at Waterdeep.
Which
is still one of the better maps in the game. I actually prefer this one to Avernus. Avernus is neat, but I love the Waterdeep map.
Yeah, so one of our artists who is now on leave, Michelle, did this one. Yeah. It's actually pretty wild. So I don't know if you use D&D Beyond, but like the one of the things I'm doing right now during the pandemic is a D&D game where we used to get together like maybe once a quarter, twice a year, to play in person like over a weekend. So we'd have like 2 really long days of D&D. We just turned it into a weekly game. So like on Wednesday nights, I DM them, and we're doing Dragon Heist. And like you can pull up the map on D&D Beyond, and I double clicked on it and like opened it in a new window, and I'm like, holy crap, this map is hilariously enormous. Like every little street is named. And I was like, and I was like trying to describe where they were going, and I was improvising a bit, and then I'm like looking at the map, I'm like, oh, thank God I was like reasonably close to where things are actually supposed to be, since I'm trying to be somewhat accurate.
Yeah.
Although all my NPCs yesterday were horrific caricatures, they were not good.
I'm just a fan of when people when you have something that's so rich of lore and story and everything that you can drill down into that kind of detail and make something, and someone could spend months detailing all of that, but it will get used. It will get used. People will use it, and people will love it. It's not for everyone, but there is enough of an audience out there that it makes it worthwhile.
Absolutely. So, like in the context of this, I had to, for the first time ever, DM characters attending a funeral of a party member, like the service of somebody who had died, and like. I'm not an improviser or actor. I did not come up with like a beautiful eulogy to describe over the course of it, but I was describing where they went. And then I'm like, yeah, like because the person was a Sun Soul monk, the closest thing they could think of, not knowing the character well enough to know what kind of funeral they would want, was they did it at a church to Lathander, the Morning Lord. They're like, Sun, Morning Lord, this person's a Sun Soul monk. Like that fits right. Like that's kind of what they do. And then sure enough, there's like this officially in the Dragon Heist book, there are the Spires of the Morning, which is, arguably the most grandiose temple in Waterdeep. There's another one too, I think Saloon, that is the other major one. But like, there's these 2 temples that are like considered to be particularly big and popular, I guess. And so like, I just kind of like went through it, but it's cool to have that depth to go into. I saw somebody asked a chat, what villain did I go with. They don't know who the ultimate antagonist in that home campaign is the Castellanters, who are like 5 steps ahead of them. But they have managed to make angry, very angry the Xanathar and very angry the Zentarum. And they just haven't in any way crossed paths with Jarlaxle. They went in a different direction there. It's been pretty interesting to see them stumble through it, I guess. Anyways, so the map, Michelle did great work. It took a bunch of time since these are all like hand-drawn little buildings.
Okay.
I like all of our maps. I think I'm partial to the Avernus one just because I'm biased towards Avernus. Like, it's just a big hellscape. But
the green screen is doing funny things on my end. I don't know if it's showing up well for everybody else. It's hilarious though. Keep going.
Oh, is it? I haven't actually been. It looks fine on my screen.
You can check the stream. Okay.
Yeah. For
mine, it's hilarious because anything that would be a whatever color would normally get poked out by the chroma key is showing through in the maps, and it's great. Yeah. Weird stuff. Yeah, I like the Avernus one. The only hard thing about the Avernus one is you've got to really click and drag to see some of the features on it because of the UI overlay.
And you can't.
So it's almost like, oh.
Well, the Waterdeep.
And I want to see stuff.
The Waterdeep one has enough of the surrounding area that you can zoom out. And same with the Sword Coast, but this one you can't really.
With Avernus, yeah.
Yeah. And
then I like how Waterdeep then just drops down, and you've got like a great way to show off Undermountain.
Yeah, I was not expecting this part to get done. So when Michelle did it, I was like, "That's super cool." I'm like, "Does this mean we're making Undermountain levels?" And Chris is like, "Yes." It's like, "Oh, all right." Which there may or may not be more adventures in at some point in the future. Anywho, I should probably pick an adventure.
May.
Once more into the breach. What's this? This is a new adventure.
New for you.
Yeah. I have not been keeping up the way that I should. It's kind of God. What are my characters even doing? What was the last time I even played this campaign? What are these parties? These parties look bad. That's a Krond formation.
Ooh,
with no familiars assigned. I'm just gonna throw this one together and see what happens.
Been a while. Yeah.
Because I've been spending more time just slowly working my way through patron variants rather than playing the actual campaigns. Moonbeam, I think, for this one.
I didn't have a lot of save formations until you guys did the quality of life upgrade where we have
50,
like 150 or whatever. I say 100 because I'll never use them all, but I'm training myself to get into the habit of actually building out formations and using the save formations slowly by surely, because that was just not something I did before.
So this was a somewhat meta Krond formation, not recently. I don't know when, but it's been a while. Huh. All right. Well, I'm just gonna leave it because I don't want to ignore you. And there are questions too.
Until you get to a wall, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And somebody was asking what the dragon bones are on the Waterdeep map, and it's like that is a map flavor, like a cool thing that you see in between layers that just happens to look super awesome.
As someone had to study lots of geology in college, it looks really nice. Like you see the strata, and then you're like, oh, and then there's dinosaur bones, basically. In which case, it's a dragon. Yeah, hey, that makes perfect.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Somebody was asking me to reset my UI scale so they can see the heroes. I'm like, you still won't be able to see them because we're in the way.
Because we're blocking them.
Yeah, I can do this.
Can't see any of this.
I can click on this thing that says, that shows none of us. And then you can see it. But then you're just listening to the sultry tones of
the dulcet tones of Dylan and Gaarawarr.
Yeah. It's not. I wouldn't call it compelling content like this. So, I'm just gonna.
Then it becomes like a podcast instead of a stream.
Yeah. Brought to you by Carl's Jr. And then I almost went into the Idiocracy Carl's Jr. ad, which actually, now that I think about it, I shouldn't say.
No, probably not.
Yeah. God, that movie.
ASMR of Dylan and Gaar. We were doing a little of that before. Before the stream started, testing out the mic volumes.
Yeah. How'd you load a familiar formation without the familiars getting removed? That was because in this particular instance, this formation was made before familiar saves were part of it. So there were no familiar positions saved. I don't know if that is still the case. But I'm pretty sure it basically just grandfathered in a super old formation save that didn't try to remove the familiars. Kind of a weird question, but what is more effective? Game running background with Shandy or offline with Shandy? Does she make any difference? I don't know that Speed Champions really do anything for offline play because it's kind of it averages a rate. You just kind of go at like an area a minute.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If you're trying to get through things quickly, having all of your speed champions and actively having the game on is way faster. Like you can get through areas in seconds instead of
early levels. And then once you start getting to that slog at the end where you might be sitting there for 5 minutes to clear a level, then you go offline because then it's only a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see, what skin is that for Naeli? Oh, this is the champion Naeli skin that was available as part of a WizKids booster pack for
I think there's people still out there with those codes.
Yeah, because it was a really cool opportunity to get something put in a minis pack. Like that's a dream for like many of the folks here because like that to us is like the coolest thing. They're like, hey, do you want to do this? We're like, yes, we want to do that. That's so cool. We like minis, and then that also meant that they sent us minis, which we like, and we gave most of them away, but we also kept a bunch. Oh yeah, no, there's tons on everybody's desks here. Like there's tons of them, including the oversized one. I got a Frog Hemoth and a bunch of stuff. But it was to date, as I understand it, it's only been available that way, and so it was in every single one of the series that introduced the Naeli mini. Or human paladin that just happens to look exactly like Naeli.
Exactly like Naeli, yeah.
And so there were a lot of codes floating around because we didn't really realize how people purchase those. But the people who are into minis who buy these, they buy bricks and bricks of them. So like one person ends up with 40 codes or 60 codes or something.
I think there's still someone on the Discord that you can PM for a code. Like they've got it in their name. PM me for a Naeli code because they probably had like 100 or something.
Yeah. And I think all the ones that we opened in the office, we took all those codes and I ended up giving them to Mars to do as part of Idle Trials giveaways. And I don't think he actually went through all of the ones that he had. I think there's probably still some left over. So yeah, they're around. But yeah, that's where the Naeli one comes from. And my understanding is that at some point, and this may have happened already, and I just missed the notice because we all work remotely now. We miss stuff from each other all the time. That it'll eventually show up in Wild Offers, as far as I know.
I haven't seen that one yet, but there's a lot of stuff that still isn't in Wild Offers. So
there's the stuff that's there. There's the stuff that's in transition, and there's all the. I mean, I think. Somebody in chat says that they've had it, they've seen it in a Wild Offer, but like Chris has to manage the timing around all those things transitioning from place to place, and it's actually really complicated because we have to do things with different platforms, and all that stuff is just it's so much more complicated than
every
at
platform
first glance.
Adds a layer of complexity.
Sure does.
Multiplying, and these are multiplicative, not additive.
Yes. Yeah. Shout out to Jacob and Peter and all the devs who have to work to make individual platforms work after, because we do most of our development and work through Steam first and then test it out and move it. And as everybody has noticed in recent weeks, we do stuff to Steam first. So that's just kind of how it rolls.
So now it's Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, iOS, Android,
Congregate, Armor Games,
Armor Games, your own platform,
CNE Games,
Switch.
Yep.
So what's missing? Stadia? Are you doing a Stadia launch?
Oh God,
Can you talk about that?
I would not be able to talk about it if we were, but no, we're just not doing a Stadia one. Could you imagine?
It's interesting. at my work, which I can't say which studio I do contract stuff for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing. Some people have been asking for, other people laugh at, but
I love the concept
people
of
want
Stadia,
it.
and like, so I mean, I watched them demo it a bit at PAX West last year, back when you could still go to conventions, and like, it didn't feel like it was a real thing because the servers that they're talking to are so close, and the pipe is so perfect that, like, there's no latency for it. I'm like, this can't possibly reflect a real world example of this, and like, I don't know how you could possibly play anything that's a time sensitive, competitive, reaction based thing on it. Like,
I used to think that about mobile phones, though. And
true.
they do that, and they have MOBAs on those now.
I just think about
And
your
MMOs.
input latency, and then the game, and then the whatever netcode
Yeah.
and stuff. And like, I guess what they've done is they've developed tech to like predict behavior a bit. So if they if they think that you're turning to shoot this guy in the head, they'll kind of help it a little bit to make up for it. Which, I don't know, is kind of strange.
Yeah, I think if we had a better, just in general, internet backbone in the United States, then you could pull it off. But we don't. It's not great.
Yeah, fiber's not everywhere.
People
And-
keep complaining, why have MMO graphics not changed for 10 years? Well, it's because the internet hasn't changed, and its ability to transmit data in general for the masses, and longer than that. So,
somebody asked me how weak I feel sitting across from your beard. I shaved my face bald the week before
not
last.
long ago. It's coming back in.
It's getting there, but more gray is coming in than last time. As I swear that I shaved out colored hair.
You're
and
going to talk to me about gray right now?
yeah. Well, I guess I can't complain about that. But yeah, I don't grow a beard like that. I don't. I'm Hawaiian. It doesn't grow in that way.
Now, once upon a time, it was not gray, and then
Yeah. Oh, it didn't start gray. That's good.
it just changes. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
some people might, but no. Yeah. Gray hair is definitely earned.
Yeah. I have more gray hair up top than you do.
Yeah, as long as I keep shaving. Yeah.
Yeah. Much of it has showed up in the last couple of years, as you know.
Yes, that's how I earned all of mine. Stress.
Yeah.
It's not an age thing; it's a stress thing.
Somebody's asking if I have a princess skin for Caddy Bree. No. I think
mean,
you're
she
thinking
is-
about. My guess is that they saw this skin for Black Viper, which is Black Viper in her non-Black Viper costume, which is
that's
as
Esvele Rajnar.
yeah, one of the noble families of Waterdeep,
Right, but
with
technically,
a
Caddy
sordid
Bree
past.
Caddy Bree is the princess of Mithril Hall. I just don't think they ever call her that because her father is king. So
Plus, anybody who called Caddy Bree a princess would probably get their teeth punched out.
yeah. Move aside, princess. Arrow to the back.
Yeah. Unearthed Arcana recently debuted an Archivist class for Wizards. That's Gaarawarr, yes?
I'm not a wizard.
Have you?
I'm a dwarf.
Do you read the Unearthed Arcanas as they come out?
I do check them out. I haven't. I don't know if I read that one. I think they just polished one that they had released before.
Yeah.
I'll have to double
Was it
check.
Archivist? Is Archivist the new one? I'm trying to remember now. I can't remember.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't remember. I go read them. I like to see all the different stuff, but no, when I'm playing RPGs, I play a dwarf, and then usually I like to be the sword and board tank.
Oh
And
yeah.
I just flesh out everybody else around me.
Now, do you sword and board in MMOs and stuff as well, or is that a tabletop thing? Okay.
Yeah. No, I actually outed myself. I'm gonna get shamed for this in chat, but I outed myself on my stream the other day. I have not played pen and paper or D&D before ever. I've only played video games.
What?
and-
What?
Yeah.
Hold on a
Only
second.
ever
I
have
need
been
I
able
need to
play
double
video
check to
games
see
and stuff.
because, like, I know
Read the
they.
books.
I just want to double check to see that we're actually being hosted on the D&D Twitch right now. Yeah, we
Yeah,
are.
I'm gonna get a lot of. crap.
Well, for starters,
You know,
I can't recommend it enough. But even playing it
yeah.
digital.
I would love to. Unfortunately, it's just when I was growing up, I lived in the middle of nowhere, so it wasn't a thing. I also lived in the Midwest, so it really wasn't a thing. And then
I mean, D&D was born in the Midwest, but the Midwest is bigger than people think it is.
Yeah, there's a lot
it's
of it there.
real huge, actually. Yeah.
So by the time I really got introduced to it, like I remember watching the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon when I was a kid, and then I had a friend in high school. I finally got a car in my senior year, so I lived like a half an hour from everyone I knew, so I could finally go visit and hang out. And he would loan me his D&D books, and that's when I got hooked on those. So now you kind of can't see my bookshelf, but my second shelf is I think I've got the 5 Elminster books, and then every single of the Legend of Dritz book. Like I've got them all
nice
back there, and then a bunch of I've got the Cleric Quintet, and then a bunch of just random Forgotten Realms stuff, including some Ravenloft. I've got like Tales from Ravenloft and Night of
nice.
the Rose. Yeah, and I've even got the Ring of Winter back there. So yeah, so I've got lots of books. Just never had the chance to actually play D&D.
Hey, that's fair. I mean, one of the games I'm DMing, my mother-in-law is playing, and she's in her 50s, and she's like, nobody ever asked me if I wanted to. Like,
exactly.
And I'm like, play with us, and she's having a great time. And I even got to kill her character, her first ever character death too.
Yeah, no, I mean, we played whenever we would get together. I mean, the people that I would hang out with loved RPGs, but we would play the video games. Like we would play like way back in high school, Bard's Tale, which was the old, actually break out your graph paper and map your dungeon, crawl out, and then
classic.
Then Final Fantasy came out, and then I was just hooked to that stuff. So we played all that kind of stuff through the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo. But then, the people that actually played D&D, they wanted to play. They'd been playing that a long time. They wanted to play video games because video games were new. So that was the thing. And then I didn't really get reintroduced to D&D again until I went to PAX Prime back in like 2010, and went to the AC Inc. show live and just loved it and just started devouring their podcasts and watching all the live streams. And
and they put on a really good show too.
Yeah,
like
it's great. If anybody hasn't been there in person, like just the feeling in the room is amazing. You can't pick it up on the stream.
It's a dedicated audience too. People are on the same page. They say green flame, and up to 1,000 people are like green flame immediately. You're like, Jesus. The first time you go, it's like it's overwhelming. It's
a like a wave of sound that just washes over you when they yell that out too.
Yeah, somebody chat blood.
Yes, blood. Cheese.
Yeah. Thank WWE superstar Xavier Wood, because you can't say anything less than the full title and name.
Bobby, you can't. It's contractually obligated.
I'm sure it is, because in every instance they say the whole thing.
It's like when you say artificially processed cheese food substitutes. You've got to say the whole thing when you're not using actual cheese. So.
Yeah, and they put on a great show. I see somebody in chat, Sean, of course. He's like, CR live shows are good. Yeah, they are, and they're louder. We know they are.
They're great. I've watched all of those. I've watched all the Critical Role.
But I
got introduced to that when I think it was Will Wheaton was on as a guest after I'd been watching his own show that he was doing on Geek and Sundry at the time.
Oh, I don't remember what his was called.
I don't either, but all I remember is 5 gold in a party. That was what they got paid for an adventure from someone. It was 5 gold in a party. Yeah. And that was the big thing they would chant over and over again.
Yeah. It's funny. It's easy to forget that Critical Role was not the first. Like,
no.
It's actually only like 5 or 6 years old. Like, AI has been around for like going on 13, 14 years.
Yeah. It's just they only did 1 or 2 shows a year, so it was easy to catch up on their stuff. Whereas Critical Role, not so much.
No, it's a commitment. But I mean, if you like it, you like it. I mean, it gives you a lot of narrative. Like, we have never been living in a better time to catch up if that's what you want to do.
Seriously.
I've been catching up on books. I've just been reading books because I haven't been very good at finding time in recent years.
Yeah. Margaret and Mars posted the Stormlight book.
Sanderson, Brandon, Brian.
In the Dungeon.
Yeah.
And so I downloaded that for free. Like, there was a 1-day only free digital download.
Yeah.
And now I've just been reading those.
Yeah.
Now in my free time, I don't make guides anymore, folks. Stormlight.
Well, hey, I mean, not that we don't love your guides, because we do, but like, good books are good.
Yeah.
I read the 5 books from the main Witcher storyline by Sapkowski last month, and they're good. I'm not enjoying the other ones because there's 3 more, but they're all kind of like short stories, or they're not tied to the main story, and I don't enjoy them as much.
Yeah, I've read the first 2. So I read the Way of Kings and what's Words of Radiance, but then I read the little half a book with like the little novella Edge Dancer about Lift, like the radiant knight that slips and slides everywhere. That one's pretty good. So now I've got to read the 3rd one. But I like when they have those little like very character focused books. Patrick Rothfuss did that too with what was his little one about Ori. That one's pretty. Those are pretty cool. When they get a chance to just flesh out a character that's not necessarily gets a lot of screen time or reading time in the main books. That's nice.
Somebody was asking how often they're supposed to get New Wild offers. They cycle every, I want to say 12 hours? Is it 12 or 24?
I never pay attention.
Yeah. I'll let Sasha or Erica. I can't remember if it's 12 hours or 24 hours, but it's more than half a day, I think, and less than a day.
I feel like they last 12 hours.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And it's either 24 or 48 hours apart, maybe.
Yeah, they're just constantly cycling.
Yeah.
I don't pay a lot of attention to it because it's all data algorithm based. It just kind of just goes. Yeah. Somebody asking, any chance for a fix to the Krull Trader Plague bug? Stopped a couple of my runs short. Short? I don't know that Krull stops anybody's runs short. If there's a new bug there, I'll see.
There's been some talk about thinking that it's either not quite working the way they want it to, or the way it was interacting with other things before, but I'm not sure.
I'm just making a note here for Sean.
It may or may not be linked to Stokey.
Really?
Or procking things. Well, people were using Stokey's
key explosion
to push real far, and that may have also been setting off like triple dipping into Trader or something. Like, I don't know.
Oh, could be. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of...
But apparently it's not anymore, and they think that's a nerf. But that's...
I mean, so there were a bunch of things that were double dipping and triple dipping that weren't supposed to, that were all pruned back at once a few updates ago.
Well, most, yeah.
Yeah. But Krull is still categorically ridiculous. As he should be, as the most metal of champions.
I did the math. He's mathematically broken.
Yeah, he's as the most metal of champions, he deserves to be the most metal. Somebody's like,
we can agree to disagree.
When is the next year 3 event champion due to be announced? The next year 3 event champion has been announced. Yeah. If you pay attention to the High Rollers Twitter, so Nova Viger.
Viger. I don't know.
I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the last name because I never actually hear the last name.
Nova.
But Nova is coming next week. Yeah. You can find an animated GIF of Nova kind of just like dancing in place, along with a really, really brief description of her abilities on social media.
Yep. I have all the questions, but we'll leave that for the champion spotlight.
Yeah, I know that the champion spotlight is mostly written, but there are parts of Nova that have not been implemented yet, so we can't finish the spotlight until parts of it are done. So, yeah, I imagine one of those questions. I bet I know what a few of them are actually. Yeah, especially with the information that's been pulled out of various builds so far.
I don't look at any of that. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then,
I do not visit the well of spoilers.
No?
I do not like to be spoiled in that way. Official discussions only. Thank you. I'm good.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because I like to theory craft with people, and if you already know, then it's not theory crafting anymore, right? Yeah.
That's true, and I think I find it fun to be surprised in a good way. Being pleasantly surprised is a feeling that I like in games. So I don't always like knowing in advance what's going to happen. I never looked into, like, when I was a hardcore WoW player, I never looked into what the test servers had or what the data mine stuff was. Not really, because I want content to be fresh and new when I experience it, not already old. Not I saw this 6 months ago or whatever.
Well, also from my experience, when I did used to look in game files back in the day. There was tons of stuff that it was in there and was never ever going to be implemented.
Yeah.
ever, ever, ever. It was like it was there from like alpha, or there's some beta stuff. There's things that they've teased around on internal builds, and it just made it out, but they're never going to use it. And
Yep.
I don't like getting my hopes up.
There are some things that I would describe as vestigial in the game files.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a partially finished designs of characters that we never made. There's key art that's actually not even a part of the game. That was placeholder in order to like test things, but was never used for anything. There's all kinds of stuff in there. Yeah.
Yep. There was an entire, when I was playing Warhammer Online, there was an entire city in the game for the dwarves and the greenskins, one of each, that they had built out a lot of, but never optimized. So it was in the game files, and you could go there if you had dev codes, which, the ability, but yeah, it was all there and you could see it in the files, but it was never coming. So
that makes sense. Yeah. Cause I remember, even just thinking about like, really big mainstream games like World of Warcraft, they had, I can't remember what expansion it was. The one where you went to the alternate Draenor or whatever it was called, Warlords of Draenor, I think. Is that it? Anyways, they built individual capital cities for both the Alliance and the Horde in it that they built, but didn't finish enough or didn't like or something, and so they didn't use either of them. So they're there in the game, and you do quests in them, and you liberate them, and like you make it so you could be there if you wanted, and then you never do because like you go there, like if you go there from the world map, like an actual capital city, the map changes into this city thing, like all the other cities in the game, but there's nothing city-like in there. Like they moved both factions' entire city, all the stuff that you would find in a city, to like the one joint combat city battleground area or something. I don't know, and they did like basically the equivalent of pop-up cities in this area instead. And it's just like, it's one of those things that like at some point during their development they pivoted, and they're like, actually we're not going to do this capital city thing, because there's flight points to it, there's plenty of space for vendors and stuff, and they don't. It happens. You can put a lot of work into something that changes, and suddenly it's not a thing.
Yeah, you just got to switch focus.
Yeah.
Switching focus and making sure that everything else works instead of adding all the extra stuff.
Yep. Somebody's asking if we're going to ever had a healer that doesn't compete with the companions at all. I mean, inevitably, yes. But is that something that we've actively been targeting? Not as far as I'm aware. Like, we have Nova coming up pretty quick. Nova is not a healer. Nova is a tank support. And, now that I think about it, that's 3 tank supports in the Arrowus group.
Yeah, they're a tanky bunch.
Yeah. Anyways, the last one won't be a tank, I don't think, as I understand it. Let's see. With all these new variants being added, do you think it's possible for new patron perks to be added? I mean, it's always a possibility.
There's a lot already.
Yeah, there's quite a few, and so one of the things that we see a lot more now than we used to see is, some pretty subtle changes to the game, whether it's a soft cap increase or like some blessings or some perks or just some perks from one more patron. Like, players make it a lot further just with that change. And we've reached a point where, we have to update our code to accommodate even more ridiculous numbers than we've already had before. Which takes some work. So like, it's just, will there be more eventually? Probably. Yeah. Is it something?
There's 5 tiers there,
there's a lot.
I was amazed there was 5 tiers at release.
There's a lot.
Each
and patron
bigger bangs for your buck than blessings are.
Yep. Each one offers a lot. It's
and we're still only at 3 tiers for Waterdeep blessings. So, and that map's almost somewhat done.
Well, it's gearing up towards something that will make people really happy, but that I'm reluctant to talk about before it's all completely done and locked in. But the writing's on the wall for it in the game.
There's tier 4 blessings for 2 of the 4 campaigns, and everybody. I mean, I would rather see tier 4 blessings for at least Waterdeep, and eventually Avernus before for like tier 6 patron perks, that would be outrageous. That'd be a lot
Yeah.
of power.
Yeah, I mean, we will be adding, like, refreshing our patron shops is something that we plan to do on a semi-regular basis. There may or may not be more of that in the shortish term. I'm like, what words can I use and not get... See, I'm not worried about somebody coming in and strangling me because we're actually maintaining social distancing. But, if I went out to my car and all my tires were slashed, I'd be like, that's my fault.
That's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they just spray painted it. Leaker on the side.
It's just like keyed. Yeah.
Oh, Michael's being mean in chat. Dylan failed the name
each champion by slot
challenge. Can you name them all? I have my game open. It's not fair.
Yeah. It's, so I was much sharper at remembering that kind of stuff before I had a small infant that's teething. And now it's just like mush.
I don't know that I would remember them all because why do I need to? I can just click on their boxes and see which ones they are.
Yeah. But sleep deprivation is real. Yeah. Somebody was asking about Mars's show. Mars had to make a change of scenery. I don't know how temporary it is or whatever, but he's taken a bit of a break. He'll be back. Nova. Yeah, I can't think of the right way to say the last name with that. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
I have no idea. That's the one stream I haven't watched is the Heroes of Aroa stream.
You see, I've watched it, but I don't remember them saying Nova's last name. Yeah. Funful. And also, Kim is the only one of that cast I haven't met. Because I met all the rest of them at D&D Live last year or the year before, whenever that was. I don't know. Earlier this year feels like 10 years ago, Like, do people even remember that Australia already burned down this year? Like,
I think they've got other problems on them. Australia remembers.
Yeah.
But I don't think everyone else is dealing with this still,
Yeah.
So.
How is Nova a tank support? Some of us are better
than others, so.
How is Nova a tank support? Well, Nova is a Hexblade Warlock, which is basically arguably the most tanky of Warlock specs. I know you can do some stuff with Fiend Locks and temporary hit points, but Hexblades, just by their nature, get like medium armor, martial weapons, armor of Agathis, stuff that makes them pretty beefy, and a lot of what makes them good is stuff that you would use in melee combat. So that's what Nova is. So between respecting that and some of the design stuff that Kim, when we collaborated with her, wanted for the character, Nova ended up being a tank support, at least for Idle Champions. I hope that answers the question for Rain Midnight.
I mean, I think that's going to answer it as best as you can before the spotlight comes out.
Yeah, well, also
and they can functionally see.
I didn't work on the spotlight this time around, so I haven't actually read Nova's abilities yet myself. I'm not quite clear exactly what she does. I do know that her Hexblade is like, because it's like a sentient thing. I mean, I guess a lot of there's a lot of artifact weapons that have their own sentience in D&D, but her Hexblade in particular is like a part of a being that she has been assembling actively over the course of their campaign, and so that like plays a part in it. Like it's what the Hexblade does as part of her kit. I don't know. Right. I mean, it looked interesting. I love the art style for the character, like the sort of like steampunk pilot scientist. It's very cool. Alrighty. Dun, 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 dun.
Me too. Sneeze and or cough, so don't mind me.
It's all good. I'm not in the same room with you, so I don't mind.
Yeah. I'm good. I only leave the house once a week if I can, and only to go groceries shopping, and then mask on.
Yeah, I come here. Although this is my first time here in a while, but I come here, and like my mother-in-law actually does our grocery shop because we just don't want to risk the possibility of infecting a newborn who's 4 months old. and who has like been unable to get most vaccines yet. Still doing that. She's going to have a real tough week, like next week or the week after when we do our next round of vaccines. It's going to be a crying baby on the way home that time. What do we have here for questions? They keep piling up and I keep not looking at them. Let's see. I think I covered that one already. Will we get more tanks without the support tag? Currently, Archon is the only one. So that's a good question because it speaks to just the design of the characters. Like it's kind of evolved to the point where we have a game where if you make a tank that is a dedicated tank and they aren't also a support, you're not going to use them in favor of a tank that's also a support because you need to get that damage number up. And you have tanks like Tyrell who could tank a bazillion things because he's horrifically strong. Or Briv, who's just like skipping way more stuff than it's just kind of Anyways, so I don't know how many dedicated tanks without the support tag we're going to have. Luckily for Archon is that like as a tank DPS, he is a legit DPS if you build around him. He's not a Zorbu, but you can complete quite a lot of the content of the game using an Archon DPS if you wanted. I don't know about using him a tank and a DPS at the same time, though. I haven't tried to do that.
I think it comes down to the Patron Challenge 1,000 levels with no support tags, which means you get Archon as your tank because he's tank DPS, and then you can only use other pure DPS.
Yeah.
And it's just all it is really set your familiars and AFK because you're not going to push any further with your actual champions without any actual buffs because none of the pure DPS actually buff other people. They're all selfish. My
least favorite patron variant to do over and over again has been the not the one where it's Minsk and people who are adjacent to him. That one's not bad, but it's the one where you can only have two. Like you can have two champions, and so you just find your
two champions.
Yeah, that's the name. You just find yourself swapping between debuffers and stuff, trying to for the last little ways, and it's just like,
It's better if you just ignore the champions completely and realize that you need enough favor to click through it. That's what it comes down to. Your click damage is killing in everything because the champions won't. So I think there's one champion. I think you can use Gromma to debuff because I think Gromma is the only champion that says increases damage taken instead of increases damage from other champions. So click damage actually functions with hers, but that's about it.
I didn't even think about that, actually. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So her and some click damage, and that's all you need, basically.
I'm a big fan of Gromma. Gromma's a good champion. I actually like using her.
Gromma's fun, unless you're trying to DPS with her. And then, she's also not quite as... She's interesting. She doesn't have the health item, which everybody thought we were getting with the rework. But instead, she gets that same amount of giant stack of health across all of her specs. So even in her swamp spec, she is still super healthy. Which is interesting. But
well, she's a turtle.
That's it. Yeah, I mean,
she's
it makes
tanky
sense.
no matter what you choose.
Yeah. It's just she kind of falls behind once you have lots of gear and everyone else's health multiplies by their gear, and she's just kind of still a turtle. Yeah. Well, she is a druid. Although druids are so tanky in D&D. God, you can never kill a druid. No, they're just like, I'm a bear, and then you finally kill the bear, and they're like, I'm a bear again. I'm a wolf now. I bite you and you go down, and then my party kills you. Yeah. Somebody was asking how they represent. How do you represent in code a number larger than the number of particles in the universe? And that's a great question. I can't answer that. We would need one of our devs for. All I know is that's the kind of problem that they have to solve. So, I wouldn't even hazard a guess. Almost there.
Krull, yeah. Krull. Oh, Krull. Can we request that Nova be a usable tank for Strahd? I believe... yeah, she is. Nova has high int, I think.
Her stats on high rollers say she is, but...
We have noticed in working with folks from different shows that some shows are a little bit more generous and liberal with the amount of stats that their champions end up with. And so we nerf them slightly. But in this case, an intelligence tank and intelligence as part of the core of her kit are two of the aspects of Nova's design. So,
Yeah.
yes, you can use Nova in Strahd.
Much needed, since Strahd only gets 2 without a feat. So that'll bring it up. That increases by 50% the number of base champions you can get as tanks in Strahd.
Somebody wants to know if they can. I guess they're just people are always requesting features, and I don't mind. Could we get something on a boss to know how many Grama mountain spiked cell debuffs are on it? God, that's a long
I've been
sentence.
complaining about that on stream for a while.
Like an upgrade on the icon, and then in brackets, Gaar knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So Grama has this turtle shell that goes on the target, and then there's spikes sticking out of it, but that's a fixed thing.
Yep.
And then there's no way to know. It supposedly stacks up to 25 times, but there's nowhere anywhere in the game that tells you, oh, hey, it's up to 25 stacks now. So we've been talking a lot about debuffs, especially since we've been trying to
That's a good point. I'm going to
beat
pass that one along.
Valendra on my Gearless account. So seeing like that turtle thing there, and then having the spikes show up like as it maxes, like as you reach different things, would be great, because then you would know when it was full. But
I'm making a note for the relevant people here for that one, because I was reading it and I'm like, that didn't make sense to me, and then you just described it. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Debuffs in general are a little rough with the way they overlay and being able to read them. And then if some of them you can find the ramping, or if there's a ramping thing, you can find it in the character UI, but you can never see it on an enemy. So that's one where it'd be a nice improvement. Also, I don't know how they prioritize how the debuffs stack in layers when they show up on a champion or on an enemy.
Oh, yeah.
But having Krulls always be on top would be fantastic, because he's the only one that has numbers.
It counts up.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point.
It's tough. It's tough when it's blended in, because it's white numbers and there's all these light blue and white and gray debuffs on things, and you just can't pick it out when it's behind at all.
Let's see. Somebody's asking, do we have an overview of how many players are early, mid, late, and end game? And if so, can you share the numbers? We can't share the numbers. We do have an overview. But yeah, that's a lot of information that
Probably looks
I don't.
like this.
Probably, yeah.
It's new, mid, late.
Yeah. That's not something that we'd probably ever be able to discuss, I don't think. I have a hard time picturing any company being willing to discuss that, but I don't think we're allowed. Yeah.
People like that, but in general, usually you see the biggest chunk at end game, and then the next biggest chunk at the beginning.
Yep.
And then the lowest amount in the middle. As people move through that, but there's constantly, if the game's healthy, there's constantly new players being added, and then that's constantly raising the number at the end.
Yep. Yeah, and we're, one of the things that we're most, I don't know, I guess fortunate. I mean, everybody's playing more games, watching more streams and TV and content. Like, everybody's just devouring more content right now across all of their screen time, because people have only screen time for the most part right now. And so it's just kind of an interesting position to be in. But I personally suspect that, like, as lockdowns lift and summer arrives, that there'll be some shifts, and we'll see where we end up. But certainly we've had more people playing, more people noticing that we did things wrong on Steam, more folks coming through Switch. So it's been interesting. Yeah. Like, I can see Sasha posting the questions in the document and stuff right now, so I'm just like looking at it, and they're like, one of them's changing. Do we know what slot Nova is in? We do not, or rather, you do not. I do, but we won't be saying that yet. That's part of the joy of reading the Champion Spotlight, is slot number and what the equipment looks like, and how the kit works, what all the different abilities are, and how they interact. So
Yep.
we're aiming for Friday for that, which would be tomorrow.
Earlier.
Actually. Yeah. Well, to be honest, we always aim for Friday, but
because it used to come out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then the last time it came out on a Monday, I was like, "Ooh, Monday!" Sometimes
on a Monday, yeah. We really do aim for Friday, but it just really depends on how much stuff gets done. Usually the last things to get implemented are like, so equipment exists as data up until it's made in the game. Like it assembles the cards and it assembles all the text, and it's the only time it gets put into that place all at once. And so in order to capture an image, like the image with all the equipment cards, we can't do that until it's actually been implemented. So that's usually the last thing that happens. So it really depends on when everything gets ready and we do the push. Oh, the doppelgangers, that always weirds me out.
Yeah, there's a new variant with doppelgangers too.
Yeah.
They were neat, but now you get them on every boss level in one of the variants.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun. I haven't dove into any of those. I've been trying to wrap up my patron challenges.
Yeah, I find it pretty challenging to keep on top of all of your patron stuff across 3 patrons. Like 2, just kind of like alternating back and forth wasn't really that difficult, but 3, I'm like, just kind of going around.
I tend to tackle 1 a day. That tends to work. But then again, I'm sitting here in front of my computer the whole time. I can start and restart runs, but yeah, I think you kind of learn over time. You learn like efficient ways to get them done, and then it just kind of becomes this thing that's going on in the background.
Yeah. Before we continue, because it's been almost an hour, I want to be respectful of what kind of time constraints you might have.
I don't have any.
I'm
usually here in chat watching you.
This is true. So you're more than welcome to stay. I just wanted to check in.
I'll hang out. I don't mind.
Okay.
I will drink some water. But
yeah, I didn't bring a drink in here because I have to sterilize this room after I'm done. So I'm just like, I'll do that after. I got like one of my like hand sanitizer things, spray things right here, and some cloths and some Lysol. The world we live in.
That's been the funny thing is, since I'm the one that does all the shopping, I get to watch the trends at the store. And, for a while, I think we all knew TP was the modern currency in the pandemic because it was so hard to come by.
Oh, man.
But now it's everywhere. And now the currency is now cleaning supplies. I cannot find like disinfectant and disinfecting wipes anywhere still.
Yeah.
I can get hand sanitizer. I can get toilet paper. I can get all the food I need. Cleaning supplies, no. And it's like, how am I supposed to like keep things clean if I don't have anything to clean them with?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is like people just mimicking behavior like lemmings a bit. Like somebody panics and buys a whole bunch of something, the person next to them sees them like loading up on it, they're like, oh shit, are we running out? And they do it, and like it's kind of like cascades.
People said that was the issue with toilet paper, and that was part of it, but the other part was that you don't think about how much usually you're using that where you work or at restaurants that you visit or things like that until you're at home, not 100% of the time.
Oh, for sure. Toilet paper. But it is the part where people don't realize the supply chain for toilet paper has not in any way been disrupted. There's not going to be a shortage of it. Like toilet paper will be fine.
Well, the issue was there was tons of toilet paper for industrial use, like for places like that don't fit on your toilet paper roll.
Oh yeah, those things. Yeah, store. Like the huge rolls at the yeah.
You just can't get that note, so they couldn't transfer that capacity over to the home stuff. So there was a bit of an issue for a little while, but now
bidets, folks, get a bidet.
Now we just need more cleaning supplies.
Somebody was asking if either of us watched the Mythic Quest quarantine special. I don't know. Have you watched any Mythic Quest?
TV? That's on Apple TV, right?
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
I don't have that. So no, I hear about it because I know so many people in game development, and it's supposedly hilarious. But I haven't gotten to watch.
I haven't watched the quarantine special. I'm sure it's entertaining because the show is pretty funny. It's certainly an interesting caricature of game development. They get more right than they get wrong. They definitely get some fundamental stuff wrong, but it's for entertainment.
Right.
It's a fun watch.
The jokes in the previews that I saw were all pretty dead-on caricatures of people I have met. So
yes, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
There's a handful of there's a handful of specific people that they're clearly poking fun at with the caricatures in the game. And then I guess they make the show in partnership with Ubisoft, so all of the in-game animations and stuff are from For Honor or Assassin's Creed or whatever. Like and many of them are made using those assets. So it's kind of
sure.
surreal to see that for the weird MMO that they
That's
run
good,
in it.
though.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to get some experience when you're doing stuff like that and not have it look like absolute junk, like most TV shows when they try to add video game stuff.
Oh,
And they're
God.
using like the Super Mario sounds in the background, but
Yeah.
it's playing like an FPS game, and you're like, what?
Yeah, they're playing an
Come
Xbox
on.
game, but they're using a
Yeah.
PlayStation controller that's not
Yeah.
plugged in. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's TV, all right.
Yep, yep. I
So is-
see. We have a question about: are we excited about Modron automation in multiple adventure mode?
You answered that, are you?
Yeah. I mean, look. We were just talking about patron stuff and how much time that takes, right? So
Yeah.
multi-adventure mode allowing you to knock all that out at once. You know, if you have 3 instances, if you could get 3 instances going,
Yeah.
heck yeah, give me that.
Yeah. I'm not really clear on what the restrictions are for how many things you can run at once and stuff. Certainly, you can't run more adventures than you have potential champions to put in
Right.
them. So I'm not sure.
That is what I have heard from your streams.
Yeah.
Is that it would be limited by the number of champions, but the how specifically we have not heard yet.
That's something that we're going to be starting to dive into soon, as I expect. Yeah, just getting ready to start ramping up potential early beta testing for it, and then hopefully some more wide beta testing for it, and then releasing it. Yeah, but
Exciting.
it is exciting. It's weird actually, in the sense that our productivity has obviously dipped a bit because everybody's remote now and communication is more of an obstacle than it used to be. But we're more or less on track for most things. But it's weird to think that like we ramp up for a release, like because we're all still remote. It's like cool, and like, but it's all like it's not all of us in a room saying that we're about to hit a button or anything like it used to be. So it's just kind of it feels very different than it used to.
Yeah, I think that was when I switched from working in offices to working from home. There's a lot different. It's nice, like you get some bonuses, like you can just wear pajamas all day, and you don't have to pay for commutes, and like there's no gas, there's no maintenance on your car, there's no all these nice things. But then there's also no face-to-face interaction with the people that you're working with, and like for me, I work with people all around the world, so there's no like going out for drinks after work or
Yeah.
in person for things outside of work. So and that's kind of what everyone is simulating that experience now. So it was a little easier for me to transition, but having that all be shocked on people at once, I get that people are having a hard time. But
Yeah, I spent a few
Good
years
reason.
doing remote work as a contractor before working with Codename, so I'm not unfamiliar with it. But when I did that stuff before, I did not have a newborn baby in the next room.
that's another big thing, because a lot of
Yeah.
times, you go to work and you've got either, people watching your kid or your kids at school, and now, nope, now there's no one that can watch your kid but you, and you've still got to work, and no, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we all have our challenges. Somebody's like the best way to gain blacksmith contracts. I mean, opening chests.
Gem farm, yeah.
Yeah.
Gem farm, and buy chests.
Yeah.
That's it.
What else we got? How do I make it so I can see the whole bench at the same time without having to scroll? I mean, that's a resolution UI scale thing. Yeah, I think if you play in a high enough resolution with the UI scale down to, you can
Probably.
do it. But
I think it's if you turn it all the way down to like the lowest, which is like 70 or 75, but then you've got to be at like a 1080 screen resolution minimum or something. I don't play that way, so I don't know.
yeah, so like I just did that on ours. So if I switch over to the game, boom! Look at them all.
Yeah,
look at all
that'll
those.
do it.
Look at all those cute little champions.
Yeah, I play it like 1600 by 900, and I have it scaled down, so I can see most, but not all.
What is the best way to get Naeli's achievement? Absorb insane amounts of damage.
Yeah, so basically, for any of those where you want to take lots and lots of damage type achievements, the key with her specifically is you can't have any shielding people. You can't have shields on her, because shields don't count. If there's a temporary HP shield, you don't get credit for that damage. So you've just got to put her in front by herself, throw a bunch of tanks behind her for health share, so her health ramps up a ton, and then throw a couple healers in, and then like be near your wall so she's taking tons and tons of damage. And if she dies, she dies, and you just reset and do it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, the higher you can get her health with extra tanks in the formation, the quicker you'll get that achievement.
Yeah, because the further you are, the harder that she's going to get hit. So,
and the less times you have to reset, because you've got a ton of health to churn through. So.
Somebody's asking how they become a volunteer beta tester. So we have like this small group of veteran beta tester players that have been a part of the community for a while. That is going to be like the first test group, and then when we open it up, we'll talk about how players can try it out then. I don't have an ETA I can give on it, so it's something that's kind of hard for us to talk too much about now. Except to say that, yeah, it's coming. Yay! So, yeah, just one day more. Somebody was asking a while back, and I missed this, how they get their Black Viper to be the hardest hitting DPS at level 250. Because they always end up having other characters outpace her. I mean, you want all your buffs to be on Black Viper?
Part of it is making sure you're building a formation that focuses all your buffs on her. And the other part is don't level everybody else up that much. If you have a hard time getting to 250, it's going to be a problem. But otherwise, max her out. Make sure you're upgrading her constantly, and just don't level up anyone else that's in her column if her column's getting buffed.
Yeah,
just get them up and get some base buffs, and then make sure.
And when you're buffing her up, make sure you're not also accidentally buffing somebody beside her or something who can potentially because if your Zorbu is right beside her, for example,
or just don't have,
and he's also getting all the buffs. Yeah,
Zorbu can be in the back of the formation and still out damage Black Viper with no buffs.
Probably.
So don't put Zorbu in.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to be very picky about who you're running that specific thing with.
Some people in chat who think that Black Viper is currently bugged. I haven't heard anything about Black Viper specific bugs.
I mean, she doesn't get used a whole lot, so it'd be rough. Oh, no red gems at all? Oh, that one's easy to test, but I wouldn't know. Submit a ticket, Sean will look it up.
Yeah.
He just looked up like 4 of my issues this week, so.
Alrighty. Can we get a total counter for the tier 3 globals as a Helm and Tiamat blessings?
That'd be nice.
Oh,
like basically, Veterans of Avernus says increases the damage of all champions by 10% for every adventure, but we have no idea. Like if on that little box it said current total like X, we don't know what we're supposed to be getting. We have no idea what it is.
Okay, yeah,
things like that. In the UI.
Sometimes when I get questions like that, I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm thinking about this the way that this particular player is thinking about it.
Yeah. And I'm usually trying to explain in chat. No, this, Dylan. But no, yeah. That's just UI, because it doesn't, all those buff all champions things don't usually show up. Some of them don't show up in incoming.
No, and when they're global buffs, they are just they're active, but they're not tracked anywhere.
Yeah. So just knowing what it would be at, so that we're not guessing and.
Yeah.
For those things like those.
There's the obligatory when is Gaarawarr going to become a champion questions.
Yay! I'd probably have to play D&D first. They would probably require that.
I got to say, you kind of outed yourself as you outed your eligibility there.
He was the Gaarawarr Grudge Keeper that we see occasionally on my screen is a Warhammer character that has not been converted over to Dungeons and Dragons yet. Mm-hmm. That would probably need to happen, and I would probably need to play him in a game with somebody. So.
Did you play a lot of Warhammer Fantasy?
I played that game, Warhammer Online: Age of Reckoning. I played that a ton. That was kind of that was the first time I started seriously making guides. Like I started a blog and made guides on the blog.
Yeah,
and that got me invited to the studio to do interviews with developers and then going to conventions, and yeah, that was me making. Those were my first forays into making event guides.
Yeah,
and I love doing that. So that was kind of. I played that for years. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of backstory for that champion, but yeah, since then not so much.
I never checked that game out. Yeah,
it was fun. It was a good time. it had tried to do lots of different things, and now those things have now filtered out into other games.
That
And
was
are
the
successful in other games.
Now,
But
was that the one where it was the first MMO where like you physically being there meant that other things bumped into you and other people bumped into you and stuff like that?
yes,
That was that one,
yeah,
right?
you had collision. Yeah,
Yes.
character collision.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and that was in the RVR zone. So that's their massive realm versus realm fights. You could literally block a doorway with people,
Yeah.
and that would keep you from progressing because you had to siege castles and take them.
Yeah.
So bodies were the way you blocked that.
Yeah. I remember
a big
that
deal.
because I remember hearing about it and being like, "That's cooler than WoW," but I never tried. I never
Yeah.
transitioned over because my addiction was too strong at that point. Like.
They also had public quests, which was a big thing. Where when you went into an area, it would trigger an event to happen. It was the first time that happened, and then as everybody could contribute to the completion of it, and it would stage up through levels. And if you finished the whole thing, there was rewards for everyone. That was a thing that hadn't been done before, and now
Yep.
has made appearances in lots of other
In
places.
pretty much every online game that has a community that can play together,
Yeah.
they do stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty common.
Yep.
And like some games do it well, some don't. Some make it
Yep.
a core part of their gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they had the Tome of Knowledge, which tracked everything you did in the game. So all of it's basically the stat sheet we would like to see here. Which is, every kill for every monster you've ever had, like it tracked how many kills you'd had down,
Yeah.
To the
Every
level,
click.
tracked all your achievements, all your loot, your collections. It was just one gigantic.
Exactly how many
stats.
inches you had walked total, like.
It tracked that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It tracked all kinds of crazy stuff, and
Yeah.
it was amazing. Yeah. That will always be the kind of bar that has been set for games in terms of tracking information in game, because I don't know of anyone that's done it to that extent and actually tied it into the story as a book that you're opening and like seeing laid out. It was good.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I know some of the stuff that we have been asked to track are things that we don't. So it's like,
kinda what I
we'd have to
figured.
completely build tech for that. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I remember Silisa and I worked together on a post 2 years ago about, hey, we'd like these stats. But yeah, a lot of them were probably things that don't even get looked at ever. So
yeah. Well, I mean, so then everybody would start at 0. So you'd boot up that update. They're like, the stat update. It says 0 for everything.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a
I mean,
brand
that's
new day, champions.
Oh man, somebody's asking if they want to farm event champion purples, do they have to redo the time gates? I mean, yeah, that's it. You could do the event free plays, and you can do time gates for that character. But that's how you get the gold chests for them.
Patrons.
Yeah, assuming
Yeah,
you
patrons.
don't want to fire some money at us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not criticizing
You
people
can
who
buy the chest
don't.
in the store.
Yeah.
You can get the gold chests out of the time gates, and you can get 3 of them out of a time gate, and then you can get a bunch out of an event if it returns. But then, I maxed out. I'm now full epic on all but the newest character, so on all but Chihira, and that was mostly with patron chests, more than time gates.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Because you can get a lot of patron chests once you've bought all the permanent stuff. You have a lot of patron currency that stocks up if you're actually doing it all
Yeah.
every week. So
That had
you
actually
dump that into chests.
It had never crossed my mind to even try to do that, but that makes total sense. Yeah. Huh. The more you know.
It's just good to make sure that you have all your core and evergreen champions epicked out, so you're not accidentally dropping a very expensive patron chest epic onto a core champion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, once you get down to only having a handful of champions left that need epics, it's very easy to fill them out with patron stuff.
So what are you most looking forward to?
In general,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. What is life? To clash your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of the women. But yeah. No, obviously, we're working on mode-drawn automation, multiple adventure mode.
yeah.
It is something that is being developed. It is in active development now. It will come to the game when it's ready. I'm trying to think of like what else we've talked about that's coming up, because I think everything else that was in Justin's dev blog from the end of last year has happened.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just waiting on that, which is impressive. You got it all done, and it's not even June yet. Well, almost all done.
Yeah, and it's almost June.
Yeah. I mean, that was faster than we got Olcoria. But
yeah. Oh, yeah. People keep asking about Olcoria. I mean,
yeah.
that is where one of the permanent campaigns is going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The evergreen champion that was teased before Dragonbait.
Yep.
You'll never live that down. We'll never let you forget it.
Hey, you know what? That's fair. Not only did we talk about it too early, we were excited about it.
Oh yeah.
Because we get excited about stuff that we're doing too, and then the like plans changed and changed and changed and changed, and it just kind of like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
The evergreens are among the characters that get bounced around the most. But
yeah, I mean, it makes sense, especially in a timeline when you're fleshing it out with other people's schedules and your own.
Yeah, well, so it's there are enough cogs in the machine schedule wise behind the scenes that is it very much dictates the timing for a lot of the releases.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, sorry. So I don't want to even comment on Old Korea or when. Because if I say when I think it's going to happen, and then if for some reason it doesn't, I'll just be like, ugh, it'll just get worse. So
Yeah.
I
will say that I feel hopeful because the new variants that were just added are directly following the path that we're taking into Under Mountain. And instead of fleshing out old stuff, which means we could potentially see that sooner than I had expected. So I don't know when, but I did not expect to see Olcoria for a long time. So.
Yeah. There is a direction to that narrative that is not complete.
Like, what can I say?
That
I can't say anything.
May or may not lead towards some kind of unlock. Yeah. What I can promise is that, as we said initially, it'll be an evergreen unlock when Olcoria is eventually added to the game, not an event champion or some other thing. That I'm at least confident in.
I think someone phrased this a little more direct. If you could make 3 demands of CNE for idle champions, what would it be?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Oh, I think everyone would like a clearer UI for things like hovering over a champion and seeing their health. Hovering over enemies and seeing their debuffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, so that kind of thing. Just that's a nice quality of life UI upgrade, and who knows how.
Yeah, champion health, how many monsters are
but,
stacked there, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, and just like I was saying before, when you're looking at a champion or an enemy like Valindra, you know that you've stacked a lot of debuffs on her, but you don't know, like you can't really read which ones. Like hovering over that and having a pop-up that lists off all the debuffs would be fantastic. So that would be a clarity, like quality of life thing. But then also just right now when we hover over a champion, as I do it on my screen and no one can see, you do get a little tooltip pop-up that explains like in real time what their damage is and stuff like that pops up on the right-hand side of the screen. But the health could go there and we don't have it, right? That would be another way to pop that kind of stuff up. I think most of the game systems so far that have been added are nice. Obviously, we have more on the way. But, a better pass on the patron challenges so that they're actual challenges instead of just inconveniences or chores, as we call them. It's
patron
our
chores?
Weekly allowance.
Yeah.
It's our weekly allowance, and we've got to
They're
do our
dailies. They're dailies. They're your dailies.
Yeah. Some people have wanted dailies, and I'm like, I don't need that. I like the fact that it's a week. You get a bunch. You can pass them around, and choose which ones you want to do. I don't have to be doing it every day like a daily was, but yeah. So I would say those are 2. Third, I don't know what the third would be. Oh, so I don't know what this is probably already in process, but I mean, looking back at the history of Idle Champions, we have gotten a new campaign every year shortly. Usually in the later half of the year, there's a new campaign that gets added.
Yep.
And we are already 4 campaigns in.
Yep.
The first one being permanent.
Yep.
And then the others supposedly ending at some point. But
Yep.
we're still getting content in all of them.
Yep.
So I look forward to the day when we stop getting content and just cap off like Tomb of Annihilation, and then
Yep.
there's a focus more on new stuff, and then
Mhm.
capping off, Waterdeep after that, and then there's a focus on new stuff, just so that it's not stretched out. Because like you guys just released effectively 8 variants, but because they're spread out around 4 campaigns, it doesn't feel like we got a lot in any one campaign.
Mhm.
So I look forward to things like that.
Yeah,
Hopefully at some point.
that's an interesting
Getting
point.
getting more in each one, because like you're finishing off things and you don't have to worry about fleshing
Yeah.
those out too.
I think when it comes to the Tomb of Annihilation, the number of adventures and the number of variants for it was set from the very beginning when we started making it, and I think we're
Yeah.
only just starting to reach it. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly when it gets capped off, but if it isn't yet, it's close.
I mean, my guess has always been like the actual adventures are done, and then I'm like 3 variants per adventure would be a great capping point. Like once you reach 3 for each campaign, to me that's okay.
Mhm.
Like you can close that one off and move on. But I don't know if that has not been confirmed as a goal. But to me, that's like,
Yeah.
that's a nice average. Everybody gets 3, you move on, and then you can focus on other stuff.
I'll make a note of that for Chris and Justin. Maybe that's something that they want to talk about on
It's-
stream at some
it's
point.
coming up to that basically in
Yeah.
Tomb of Annihilation.
Well, and like, I mean, D&D will inevitably announce and release another book,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because they seem to be
Very
on a
soon.
pretty consistent
Yeah.
annual schedule for a major campaign book, and then whatever the rest of the books are is pretty. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't expecting a Theros book or a Critical Role book, but that's what came out this year. So,
Yeah.
they like changing things up, but they do like having a pretty structured cadence for their like main campaign story each year. So, I look forward to hearing about that, and we will inevitably have an adventure that gets released tied to that. But you're right in that, the Tomb of Annihilation needs to be annihilated in order to
Yeah.
move forward. And the Dragon Heist one is getting closer and closer to the final adventures for it.
Yeah.
And then, even going into next year, there will still be variants for it, but then eventually it'll cap off as well. We do plan for those to end. The only campaign that isn't going to end is the Grand Tour of the Sword Coast, because apparently you can never stop touring the Sword Coast.
No.
And also, there's
And
a very
I-
good chance that, like how we integrated Curse of Strahd into that campaign,
Yes.
there are other stories that may make their way into the Grand Tour of the Sword Coast as well.
And that's what I was going to say. Is the one thing I would like to see is more of those kind of branches into those other adventure books that aren't necessarily directly tied, but that you could make a leap from the Sword Coast into. I don't know exactly where Saltmarsh is, but I would love to see Ghosts of Saltmarsh Adventures.
You know what? I think.
But that's because I like pirate stuff.
Oh yeah, me too.
You know,
I was.
I would love to see that.
I was pushing for that as soon as that book came out. I'm like, Chris. I'm like, do we have a campaign where we're fighting on pirate ships, like off, off
Oh, man.
off these islands or something? He's like, well, no. I'm like, can we?
Yes,
But
please.
as Para Josh pointed out in chat, Saltmarsh is in Greyhawk.
I don't care. Let's go.
Well, see, the thing about Greyhawk is that it's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Somebody asked if we were getting new coloring pages this week. I'm not quite clear on when they're coming. I know it's something that's kind of always being worked on, and I swear in one of our internal chats I saw some new coloring sheets in the last couple of days, but it's all a blur.
Yeah, we have heard
Yeah.
from Margaret, the keeper of the coloring sheets, that there was a request put in for more, and
Yeah.
it may arrive soon.
Yeah.
But I don't know when.
I don't understand what evergreen means. Does it mean non-event? So
Yeah, sort of.
So evergreen has unfortunately been used in a bunch of different ways. Hashtag thanks Chris Dupuis. It's a terminology that he brought to the table that has kind of blanketed over a few things. So we have our core champions, which are the 12 champions that you have no matter what. As long as you've earned enough gold to unlock them, they're a part of your formation. No extra unlocks needed. Evergreen champions are champions whose loot, like those core champions, shows up in your regular gold chests, but who you unlock some other way. So there's Hitch through the newsletter. There's Azaka and Dragonbait and Dritz through challenging variants throughout the campaign, or variants that used to be challenging at this point. And so, yeah, Evergreen kind of refers to anybody that you can unlock whose loot shows up in gold chests.
Yeah. Or as I like to say, it's evergreen like the tree. They're available year round for you to collect without needing an event or a time gate. But, yeah.
Yeah, that's also true. And then somebody asked how we decide who is an evergreen instead of an event champion. That is a Chris Dupuis question across the board, since he is literally the one who picks that. But part of it is tied to release schedules and timing. And then the other thing is that, like, for our evergreen champions, we very much lean towards characters that are lore source material characters. You know, like, as an example that may not have to do with anything, Ulcoria Stonemarrow is a character mentioned in the Waterdeep Dragon Heist TRPG book. Dragonbait is a character most recently mentioned in the Tomb of Annihilation TRPG book, as is Azaka Stormfang. You know, there may or may not be a relationship between where they're from and where they show up.
Character from the Sword Coast.
Yeah, Dritz is a character from 40 novels. Yeah.
42, I think.
Yeah. Is he in the new ones? I thought the new ones were about Zaknafane.
Oh no, he's in them. Yeah, it's just the story is more about kind of him and his dad and their family interactions. Now that he has spoilers, everyone, his dad's back. But yeah.
Yeah, I read that and I was like, "Huh, should we do Zaknafane?" And somebody was like, "No," and I'm like, "All right."
It's
yeah.
I mean, it's really off in the timeline of. But I mean, you're kind of picking people out of all these different timelines. But
well,
yeah, it's interesting.
He
would get along with Zorbu. He's very racist.
There's a lore content creator on YouTube called Mr. Rex. He likes to do these long D&D deep dives. And he was talking about Ao in his most recent video. Ao being the god of gods.
Yeah.
You know. And there is another sort of nondescript quasi deity, something or other above Ao, but it's unnamed and not really a thing. But like Ao is the one who's like, "Oh, you're not a god anymore," and like flicks away their power if he wants to.
Yeah. That was in is it the Sundering? Is that what was referred to? Or something?
So that was part of it. So the part,
like when they destroyed everything in Maestra and all the gods were thrown to Earth. That's in the book series I have.
Yeah.
I have that book series.
So that was one of the things that he was diving into a lot in his most recent video. But the thing that he was talking about that was the most interesting, at least to me, was he's like, the timeline since all of those events happened, and like the second Sundering and the Spell Plague and all that stuff, it's like from there to now-ish as a sort of quasi weird term, it's like a decade long, and that's when like Storm King's Thunder takes place. It's when Descent into Avernus takes place. It's when Tomb of Annihilation takes place. It's when like all of these things are happening. So he's kind of like, so the world's kind of like really falling apart right now in like the couple year span following all these changes. It was just really funny.
And I think someone else did the math, and they found out that Zorbu has lived through all editions of D&D, which explains why he's an angry old man.
Oh yeah,
he's lived through all of the destruction, all of the upheaval, and through it all, he's just hated things.
Yeah. Especially Drow. Doesn't like
all
Drow.
He's got to hold on to. I just hate things. The world's gonna do outrageous things around me. I'm just gonna focus my hate on this one thing. It's all I can do to get through.
Yeah. Alrighty. Somebody's asking if we can increase the rate at which we are able to farm patron coins during free plays. I feel that farming at a rate of 2 coins a level is very slow. Prevents you from doing other content unless you have many hours under your belt. Well, I mean, part of that you're going to feel a little different about when you can run multiple instances at a time. I think that'll address a lot of issues people have with farming content and trying to complete different objectives. But in terms of why things are set to the rates they're at, I mean, that's a very good game balancing question to ask Justin in the event that we are somehow able to get him on stream again.
Yeah, good luck.
I know. Now that he's not around, it's like...
Yeah, now that he doesn't have to be in the office or around people.
Yeah. Alrighty. Can we get a windowless border option so we can play at max resolution without being full screen and not cutting off the level up buttons? That is a great thing. I'm going to pass along to Dave again because he is the master of resolutions. Alrighty. Oh, somebody wants. Michael's asking if he could see your shirt. So he wants you to lift your beard up. Yeah.
I can't. It's backwards, everybody. It says Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. It's a swing band.
Huh. That's a nice shirt.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm a big fan of
good merch in general.
Of like just typographic based logos and stuff. Like I'm a huge fan of them.
Yeah. This one's been around a while. If you ever saw Swingers, they're the band that's on stage in Swingers, in one of the scenes in Swingers.
I mean, that movie's not recent.
No, they aren't either. I mean, they came out. I think my shirt says established in 1993. So you know. But that's back when I was going to their concerts. Like I've been to everything from a tiny little crammed in a bar concert of theirs to, the hard rock type style of concert.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good times. They've been around for a long time now.
I mean, is that a long time?
Not a hint at a combo.
Yeah.
All the combos have already been found, folks.
Yeah.
So last century. Oh.
Somebody mentioning Cherry Popping Daddies. Wow.
Yeah, they were another group. Yeah.
Yeah. Next thing you'd be talking about Brian Setzer Orchestra.
Yeah. That was all the same timeline.
Yeah. Almost like it was, an era of a type of music that got popular, popularized.
Yeah. In the 90s, because Swing Kids came out, the movie Swing Kids, which was, about...
That was Christian Bale, wasn't it?
Kids rebelling in Nazi Germany or something, wasn't it?
I think that was Christian Bale, that one. Yeah, because Christian Bale was in both Newsies and Swing Kids. Anyways, sorry.
So that triggered a phase of lots of these bands coming out and touring more because people were coming back into swing music. Mm-hmm. And that just kind of took off. And now we're actually back in the 20s, but it hasn't returned.
Yeah. This time the 20s prohibition is around leaving your home, not consuming alcohol.
Well, it was back then too, roughly 1918. That was the last pandemic in the United States, or worldwide, technically.
Last global pandemic, yeah. You know what I find fascinating about that is that people who try to research into what did we do last time? It's hard to find a lot of concrete information about it. Yeah. Not only did
no vaccines.
Yeah, and not only was it handled poorly, but a lot of the social distancing and stuff that we do now, a bunch of that happened then, but people didn't document any of it very well.
I mean, there's some documentation. We had the things that are coming out more is that we had exactly what's going on right now, where people started complaining about having to wear masks. There was actually a group that was the Anti-Mask League that was across America that you could join, and they had meetings to complain about it and fought against it. And when they got that overturned, suddenly the plague came back for round 2, even worse than before. And we are not learning those lessons in most places. Some places are doing great. I think there's some places in Canada that are doing great. I think in New Zealand's had no new cases for a week.
No, longer than that.
Longer than that? All right.
Yeah.
I just saw that was the most recent thing I saw. I don't remember.
No,
some places are doing good. Other places, like where I am, nope, not at all.
Yeah. Everybody's kind of looking at parts of Canada are not doing as well. Ontario and Quebec, which are the most populous provinces, of course, are struggling more. Quebec especially. But here on the West Coast in BC, things have been going great.
Better. Hopefully they stay that way.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, more surges and more outbreaks are kind of inevitable. You can try to protect against it, but unless everybody is actually on the same page, everybody's following the rules, etc. There's always people somewhere who are just I don't care, or I'm not worried about it, or whatever. I'll go for a walk with, Catherine and our baby, and we'll be pushing the stroller along, and there'll be nearly, probably 19 out of every 20 people we go past, we either split to the opposite sides of the street, or we give each other a wide berth. And then you'll walk past a couple teenage girls who are and they just walk right at you.
Yeah.
You know, because they're not worried about getting sick because, you know, they're young enough to think that they can't or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Not reading the data about the fact that, like, the young people who get it and, like, just drop dead because they don't know why. They're like,
Or end up with lifelong illnesses.
Yeah, yeah. And like, and I also like, I sympathize for them in that I didn't have to be a teenager through this. Like, that would have sucked, you know. But yeah, it's, you know, around here, our leadership, we are lucky in that our provincial health officer is an epidemiologist, which is kind of ideal for this exact scenario. That the leadership, the person who is making the suggested changes on how to move forward at a governmental level for the province of BC is somebody who this just happens to be their expertise, happens to have decades of experience of dealing with epidemics around the world and really knows her shit. But then on top of that, the leadership style here has been like positive focused in that it's about like the things that you can do or that you should do. And it has never been about don't do X, Y, and Z. That's just never been a part of it. It's only been about like do this, do this, do this, you know, be safe in these ways, etc. And it's so far worked out great for us. Yeah. So yeah, BC seems to be doing well right now. But you know, we're opening up. Other parts of Canada are opening up. Parts of the United States are opening up. Places with their shit together are opening up. Places without are opening up. And for some reason, I don't know why people wanted to politicize it, but it's politicized in some areas. Like just trying to be safe. Like it's terrifying and frustrating and fascinating and all those things. Yeah. Anyways, I ignored questions to just ramble.
It happens.
Yeah, somebody was asking how they
Conversations
unlock old champions. They're new to the game. Time gates and events. Assuming you're not swiping your card to get everything you want all the time. No judgment. I mean, everybody's got different amounts of money they can spend on their hobbies. But there are time gates that open naturally on a pretty regular cadence in between events every 3 weeks or so.
One's coming this Friday, tomorrow.
Yeah. One is coming at 12 p.m. tomorrow. So 21 and a half hours from now. And then there are also time gate pieces that drop that allow you to open them yourself. There are time gate pieces you can purchase from patrons once you've made your way far enough in the game to unlock all the patrons and start doing those, which allow you to open them even more frequently and earn loot. And then there are events that happen you can unlock champions through. So there are lots of options now for getting characters.
Back in my day, you had to wait a year to get a champion.
Yeah, there was a time when you had to wait a full year or when the time gates were random.
Well, and then to be fair, the ones that come up on their own still are, but the ones you open yourself with time gate pieces, you can pick any champion you want from the past. So.
Yeah. Oh, good Lord. I have been wanting to start reading some of the books, but there are so many. What series would you both suggest as a start?
It's tough. I enjoy the Dritz books, but there's a lot of them, so that's a deep dive. I think the most recent one that I read was Farida and Havilar's series, The Burning Angels, or
Brimstone Angels.
Brimstone Angels.
You found a physical copy of that?
I have one of the books physically. The rest I picked up on digital.
Okay, that makes sense. They're surprisingly hard to find.
The most, because the previous ones are just out of print. But I think the most recent one you can get in paperback still. Yeah. So those were really good. But I have an innate love for like the Elminster books. I really liked Elminster's Making of the Mage, which basically details all of how he became a chosen of Maestra. And dodges through lots of these different timelines and gives you a broad overview of history of kind of the realms. But a lot of his stuff can get very it's very politicsy in some of them for his stuff, because he gets so involved in the running of different governments as Elminster. But whereas the Dritz books are all combat, there's just, you'll have lots of adventure and combat that's in every book. They're always going somewhere and beating somebody up. So if that's kind of what you're looking for, they've got it out of 40 plus books now. So yeah. Outside of those, like you know, I like I said, I've read a lot of those. I've read some of the other like here and there books, like some of the Harper's books, but I don't know if I would say start there.
I mean,
the Time of Troubles books, those were good, but again, that's been a while in the past now. So
I think there's the easy dive, like the dipping your foot in, where it's like the Brimstone Angel saga. There's like 4 or 5 books.
Yeah.
So if you like the first one, there's a short path of books to get through that isn't too daunting. But if you read all that, and you're like, man, I want to read 50 more books. They're there. You can do that. There's lots of opportunity.
The Cleric Quintet, is great. If you just want another very short series of books. You can actually buy it as one thick book, and just read all the way through it, and that'll have an appearance by Drizzt in there. But that's Catterley and Danica and Pikel and Ivan Boulder Shoulder, which we need in the game at some point because they're fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's another short series. It's an older series, but it's still good. Jarlaxle makes an appearance in that one, I believe. I can't remember actually.
Jarlaxle.
I know there overlaps with Catterley and the companions and but I'm not sure if they're in that series specifically.
Let's see. We have a question here from Gaarawarr. With the release of multiple adventures, are familiars being restricted to the same way as champions? If so, will there be more familiars? There will be more familiars. Yeah.
This fall, Idle Champions gets more familiar.
There'll be more familiars sooner than this fall. I could say that.
Nice.
And yeah.
Nice. See everybody. I got you. I got you a leak. There.
Yeah. What else we got?
I can't see your list of questions, so I don't.
Yeah.
All I see in chat is DLC pack.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's the thing. Is that the thing for the final giveaway?
Probably.
Yes, it is. So the last giveaway we're doing today, normally we do you can pick the 7 chests of your choice, and that's what we'll give you. This one is the winner gets to choose between the Year 1 or Year 2 Champion of Renown pack.
Man, I want to enter that one.
Go for it. Yeah. You totes can.
I won't.
Yeah, not that,
nice.
I wouldn't just give you one, but
those are great. To me, I think those if you have money to spend on the game and you're like, yes, these are within my disposable income limits, and you're a newer player, those are a fantastic value because you get 5 champions, tons of gold chests for them, tons of, a couple silver shinies for each, and a skin, and they're all each of them are good packs to start with. So
yeah, they're all good characters.
Yeah. The hard part for me is I already have them all, and they already have all the gear.
Yeah.
So I just haven't bought it because all I'm buying then is shinies and a skin. And
I'm pretty sure this walnut skin here is from one of them.
Oh yeah, the Grove Keeper, is that what it's called? I don't remember the name.
Clone walnut. Grove Keeper is the individual
that's the
one.
Grove Keeper one. Okay.
Yeah.
Clone walnut is I like to refer to that as walnut.
Yeah.
Because that was a whole arc in the C team.
And then the other one is this one here. It's the construct version of Evelyn.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's cool. And the neat part about that one in the storyline, now that story is over, was when she got that, she met Lathander, and Lathander gave her these engravings on the construct portion that made her stronger. But then when she was returned back to human form, those engravings stayed as silvery tattoos, which was really neat.
Yeah. Alrighty. New player. How do familiars work? Oh, that's a big question. Familiars, depending on where you put them, click for you.
Yeah.
I guess that's an easier answer than I thought.
They click. depending on where you put them, they do different things.
Yeah. I'm going to switch to just gameplay only view so that people can see the screen. But so I'm holding down F in case anybody's wondering. This is like the quick button for familiars because you can click on the familiar button to put them all back.
F and chat for familiars.
Or you can just click in places to put them down, assuming you have them.
If you hold F down and then you hover over one of those white areas, it will tell you what happens when you put a familiar there.
Yeah.
So it explains.
It's like random ultimate slot,
Yep.
clicker slot, and it's like with 6 familiars assigned, distractions will automatically be clicked. You see that beetle?
Yep.
Boom! No, you don't. And you can put them on leveling your champions. You can put them on leveling your click damage. Yeah, familiars are pretty neat, and there's a lot to collect.
Yeah, I do not have them all.
No,
I've been a bad Pokemon champion. I have not catched them all.
Yeah. You have not managed to catch and enslave a whole bunch of innocent creatures. That's good.
No.
That's good.
No, unfortunately.
Oh man, what else we got? I feel like event champion item levels struggle to remain competitive, even with time gates. Any plans for alternative gearing? Not so much for Access, in the sense that you can open time gates and you can continue getting stuff for them, but you have contracts, blacksmith contracts.
Patron chests.
Patron chests.
Patron chests are a way to get loots for champions that qualify for those, and that includes event champions. And then your blacksmithing contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Those you can target directly on whatever event champions. You should never really be using those on your core and evergreen.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep those for your event champions and level them up. In terms of power, unless you've just farmed outrageous amounts of gems and bought outrageous amounts of chests, and some people have, even a low item level event champion is going to be on par with a pretty solidly geared core and evergreen champion.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how the balance works. So
Yeah.
you don't have to match them. As long as they're in, like, some of mine are, well, actually the lowest I have now is around 50. So, but that's after a while of leveling them up. But I've used them in the 30s, 20s, 30s, and 40s and had solid event champion work with them. So. How do you get potions of polish?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
You buy them from patrons, or you
Yeah.
buy things.
There's one from each patron.
Yeah.
You can occasionally get them if you have like a shiny in a slot, and then you get a golden epic for that same slot. It will refund you a potion of polish. Are there bundles in the store that have potions of polish? Those tend to be
Yes, I think.
cash-based things for the most part
Yeah.
because of the power. Because
Bundles
they
do
can go
have them.
everywhere.
Some bundles.
Yeah.
Some wild offers have them. They should have them listed.
Yeah, and then occasionally, I think we've had them as some kind of major event reward, not the event every 3 week reward, but
like the weekly
big
weekly
thing.
login stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
They show up there too.
So the High Rollers one was first, and then we had the C Team one last year, and then
Yep.
we're all waiting impatiently for this year's.
Yeah.
Hopefully
The
that will
spring
get sorted.
extravaganza had one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suspect our next anniversary will have one somewhere in there.
One can hope.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was thinking about it. I'm like, what are we doing for our anniversary this year? I guess we'll find out late August, early September. Because that's normally we would do like PAX West and some other stuff all around the same time, but I don't think any of that's
Yeah.
happening this time. So
No.
we will probably change things up a little bit. We'll see. Somebody's like, I'm curious if we'll get more things that familiars can do at some point because they keep adding new ones, and eventually we'll be flush. Well, I mean, you're going to want them for your multi-adventure mode. Let me just leave it at that. So even though we are continuing to add more familiars, you won't feel like you have too many at some point.
Yeah, I feel like most people will feel they don't have enough. In general. Because I've got a good amount. I feel happy with what I have, but once multi-adventure mode comes out and mode run automation, I'm going to be like, need more familiars.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're interesting in that they're a nice to have, but not a need to have.
yeah. Lauren, everyone knows the cake is a lie. Don't bring anniversary cake in here. What you really need. Oh, here you go.
Bangerang for Idle Champions.
We need an anniversary cake familiar that's actually a mimic, in the form of an anniversary cake.
Oh, you know what? I really like that idea.
It just opens up with teeth.
Yeah, I'm going to propose that. Hold on a second.
You could start doing that every anniversary, and it just would have more candles on it.
That's a great idea. Where am I going to put that? I'll put it right here. Anniversary mimic.
Remember, mimics can take all kind of forms, people.
It'd be funny if, because we already did the mimic familiar with a bow on it, but it would be funny if all of our anniversary ones were mimics being things.
Yes, it would be fantastic. We would just have to retroactively add a second anniversary one.
Yeah. What did we do for a second anniversary? That was the Celeste.
We got a Celeste skin or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Zombie Celeste. What was it?
Oh, no, it was something.
Was it her feet?
It must have been her. Oh, yeah, it was, because everybody complains because you can't get it anywhere.
Oh.
That was exactly what it was. It's not available for gems for 50K like all the other limited time ones are. And no one's seen it in a wild offer or anything. So
okay. People
would like it to be added to the 50K table.
Yeah, I'll make a note.
But yeah, go back and retroactively add another
retroactively
familiar of some kind.
Yeah, yeah. The feet is actually a familiar. Like if you click on it, it's just like that's it.
Oh, we just didn't unlock that. It's like the Crowy hidden click unlock.
I like that one. You'd have to be a pretty diehard fan to have noticed that one.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody found it in the first place.
We joked that there was something like that existed, and eventually somebody figured it out, and then we demoed it on stream. But
yeah. I remember demoing it on screen. I was just amazed somebody found it first. So
yeah, yeah, that was a good one. Crowy Criddler. Oh,
Doka Bear Games. I have Crowy. What are we talking about here? So you put Crowy on Binwin to level him up, and then you click on Crowy 3 times, and my arch nemesis will appear in the game.
Yeah.
For a short period of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with the hello voice that gets done, but.
Oh, God, I hate the Criddler.
I love that bit so much. It's so bad.
I was all for it the very first time.
Yeah.
And then he went to do his riddles, and they were just garbage, and I was like, no, I'm done. Come on. Give me a real riddle.
That's what I like about them, is that they're so terrible. Oh man. Yeah.
I want I'm still, I will, to this day, I will say, I really want here's something, Dylan, since you can make this happen. I think there needs to be like a Idle Champion scavenger hunt where you find clues that lead to more clues, and you have to solve things, and eventually you get codes along the way. And that's how you give out codes. I want a big scavenger hunt instead of just here's a list of 20 combinations, and we've got to like rack our brains to figure out the combinations. I want a very leading adventure.
You want us to make Myst?
Yes. As
a sub game
system for codes. I want you to build a game for me to play while I play a game, so that I can get codes to get loot in a game that I play. That's what I want.
Oh man, it's funny.
I like those kind of meta games, though. I like that,
and I do too. I look at some of the more complex ones that people have done, though, like the ones that fall flat. I think about a few of the the one that was in like January from Destiny, where they ended up having to brute force it because there were like some. It was ambition. It was in many ways really creative and amazing, but. I think they had overestimated the community's ability to complete it within the time frame that they had targeted, because it was just
a limited time.
And so they ended up brute forcing it, and so like dozens of people, basically, many of whom were content creators, would like play all day long, brute forcing different combinations to try and figure out the route through this massive hexagonal maze thing with different icons and stuff. I think somebody on Kotaku did a really good write-up about it at one point once it was done, and they're like, people hated this, and it's like, yeah, they did, because it wasn't fun to do. But
I just want more of like a text-based riddle game.
Text-based riddle game. Oh man,
that's really the riddles. There's an overarching story,
Yeah.
and the codes are part of the story, and the riddles lead you to the codes, and then the codes
I
lead you to
see.
the next riddles, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what I want. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's just a bit more of a directed version of a 2020 hidden combo list because we don't
Yeah.
have to beg for hints each week.
yeah.
We actually can develop our own.
I mean, you guys do know who most of the other codes are for.
Yes, we are down to 6. Hold on, I got to pull up my list. We figured out the Volanya one.
Yep. Yep.
We still have
Tweeted
not
that one out
figured
recently.
Binwin,
Yeah.
Gordon, Rosie, Korth, Quint, and we believe the final one is Dragonbait. You had shamed us into thinking we were wrong with our final guess, and we have adjusted to believe that it is Dragonbait now. So that's where we're headed. Those are the 6 we believe we have left. We got all the normal ones, and we're down to only like 2 of the 12. Like our original hint that you gave us was 16, 16, 24, 12, which we believed was 16 16-digit codes and 24 12-digit codes. If that is the case, then we are down to only missing like 2 12-digit codes, which will then make it easier to find the other 16-digit codes. Slightly.
So you guys are missing codes. What is it? I have them numbered.
Oh, jeez. Well, I don't know. Are they numbered in from 1 to 40? If so, I can give you that number. But if you numbered them some other way, I don't know.
I mean, one of them is something that somebody has said a whole bunch of times. And
I mean,
one of them isn't about them so much as it's about who they serve.
oof. Somebody better be writing these notes down.
Yeah.
Not them, but who they serve.
Yeah, one of them's about their nature. And another one's about social distancing.
Yeah, well, we think the social distancing one is Puent.
And the last one's about Dragonbait, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so confirmed on stream. Last one's
Yeah.
Dragonbait.
Not Morgaine, Dragonbait.
Yeah, I didn't think it was Morgaine because Morgaine wasn't out yet. I just did not realize this was the first time you had inserted an evergreen into a list of combinations. The first 2 packs of 10 were just event champions. So
Mm-hmm. Well, there are other non-event
What's wrong with
champion
that?
related codes in some of them.
well, sure.
Yeah.
There was generic stuff. What I term generic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you literally had A B C D E F G H I J K.
I like that one. I thought
Very
that was
first.
funny. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Which
Yeah.
we got to wrap this up in a second. But one of the things I wanted to mention is that when we first did this, an unintended side effect was there were codes that we had made for testing purposes that were never had expiry dates that were like brute forced and like, oh shit, like we need to disable some of these because we had a bunch of codes that had never had expiries put in, which was funny. Including like one that we had given to a content creator so they could test stuff, like so they could show it on when they talked about the game.
right.
And so it gave like dozens of different types of chests. And we're like,
Oh.
and when we realized that was still alive, it's like, well, nobody else clicked it. We're like, good, delete, like just remove it. But yeah, there were a whole bunch of ones that had nothing to do with it that were discovered,
Wow.
which was pretty funny. A funny unintended side effect. And then also for like other shows that we'd like made codes in advance for because we made them in advance, and
People
then
will find 'em.
they start getting discovered. But luckily, these ones all award 2 of a kind of chests, so they do kind of stand out. Anyways, it's almost 3.
It is.
And you know what that means? That means that the stream gets shut off in a minute, whether I like it or not. So this has been our show for Thursday, May 28th. Looks at the corner of the screen quickly. Yeah, May 28th, 2020. All the days and all things bleed together now because life is an endless repeating nightmare. Thank you guys for joining us today. We love you. You guys are awesome. Thank you for participating, not just in the Idle Champions community, but in the D&D community, the CNE Games Twitch communities. Like, we like that you are here. Thank you for joining us. Huge shout out to my co-star, my guest. My hand cuts off. That's how exciting.
Mine does too.
The
I'm not
Gaarawarr.
Dylan.
Yeah, like,
Yes.
yeah. For taking time out of his afternoon to join us. This show exists because of a bunch of people. And so we have our co-producers, Sasha, as well as Erica, and some other of the marketing folks like Margaret helping out behind the scenes. Sean in chat, I saw, as well as our partners at Dungeons & Dragons, Greg, Bart, Pelham, Allison, Shalling, and Lisa. Take care, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow with Griddle Champions.
And me. More me.
Peace. I don't know why I did that, but I did that.